Greetings all. Earlier today, I got a bit of a ribbing about my eyebrows in the chat, and so I decided to draw some on. I hope you guys like it. So, I wanted to read this thing for a minute, and it took me a while to complete it, and I'm not sure if it's actually complete, but I figured I would go ahead and read it because it's a thing that I've been thinking about, and yeah, I guess I'll talk about it later maybe. We'll see. I'm not sure. I might just end it. Either way, I hope you enjoy. So this is another Mouthwords. It is called Glass Diamonds. I came to quite a distressing realization the other day while driving from the gym. Writing has been a chore as of late, but this hit me so hard I need to expel some of the, I don't know, epiphany juice, because when it sits too long it goes rancid and makes me sick. Right now, it's freshly squeezed from this experience, and while there's probably some method of fermentation that perhaps adds to the sauce, I honestly feel like I've been doing that for the past 2 decades by compartmentalizing my thoughts about this particular experience. As you know, while I go out of my way to be accepting and uplifting, I tend to be absolutely hateful towards myself. It's something I've been working on with varying levels of failure. There I go again. I tell people that even my positive thoughts are negative, and it's honestly one of the few truths I find a weird comfort in about myself. I am a Debbie Downer, and while I don't take pride in it, I find that I'm rarely disappointed. So I don't like myself. This animosity didn't magically make itself known one day. Quite the opposite. I've been well acquainted with it in its many iterations for as long as I can remember. I've, in many ways, been taught to hate myself, and while I don't entirely blame my parents for raising me this way, ignoring the very direct hand they had in building, or perhaps tearing down, my self esteem makes it impossible to heal from. Growing up, outside of hugging as greetings and goodbyes, I was rarely hugged or cuddled. I didn't know that cuddling was a non romantic activity until I was 20. There was not much space for me to exist within emotional intimacy in my childhood, so I've come to understand it to be something that you do not share with others. I had such a fragile framework to understand things like my intrinsic value vis a vis my interpersonal prowess, appearance, and attractiveness, and while my parents endeavored to be supportive of my self exploration, I rarely remember being called pretty or beautiful to the point that when these words are used to describe me, I am stunned to the brink of dissociation. While I was always encouraged to appreciate my intellect, my appearance was always a fraught subject. I remember calling myself ugly countless times and my mom telling me not to say it, but never affirming that I was, in fact, beautiful, almost like I was ugly, and I just shouldn't say it because it makes other people uncomfortable. The first time I remember going shopping with my mom and her being legitimately excited, like she went through the racks with me and came up with ideas for outfits, was after I lost a large amount of weight in a disturbingly short period of time. I remember at the time being so happy to finally have one of those moms who thinks her daughter is pretty and feeling really fucking sad because it took me starving myself to be seen as worthwhile. And I wasn't even a daughter. And here I am, her not daughter, 17 years later, still struggling to feel worthy. And I come home for Thanksgiving hoping I don't have to use my vomit knife, but, of course, I wouldn't have brought it had I not intended to. And one of the first things that she says to me upon entering the house with her hands on either side of my face is, "You're so beautiful." I'm once again stunned. My consciousness shot out of the back of my head and splattered into the wall behind me. So stunned, in fact, that in my head I've changed what my mom has said, thereby changing the entire meaning of the exchange. Because all this time I deluded myself into believing that I wanted my mom to think I was visually pleasing, that somehow my value as a person is inexorably linked to the beauty she is able to birth into the world vis-a-vis me. But that was never it. I so badly wanted to be seen that any acknowledgement of my corporal being was at least affirming that I existed. I just wanted to feel fucking normal for once. I saw the contours of what defined beauty and decided that words like pretty and stunning were comparable substitutes. Oh my, How silly was I? Because of course she didn't say I was beautiful. She said I was pretty. And the realization hit me like a ton of bricks. I've never been one to shy away from uncomfortable experiences, but to actively catch myself revising history to be more comfortable for me to recall, it's quite literally unbelievable to me. But it absolutely happened. And addressing that will be a task for another day, because who am I to look a gift horse in the mouth, especially looking the way I do? I should take every morsel, every crumb I can get if I really am that hard up for affirmation. I think I've found that I'm not, and the realization has been jarring. Perhaps unsurprisingly, I daydream a lot, and this thought came to me with such dizzying clarity. I have a hard time articulating it because it churns in me with a deluge of emotions, thoughts, and sensations. To explain any one part, I'd have to explain other expansive parts of my life that are also connected to it. So I'll try to lay it out in a manner that might be more digestible. I envision myself as the prodigal child of a village that has since fallen into semi-ruin, and not for lack of maintenance or because everyone worth anything has left. The town still manages perfectly fine, but it's antiquated and nothing works like it should. The people suffer from maladies that have been cured for years and use tools both outdated and shabby. Of course, over the years, they've acquired a few newer innovations that have allowed them to live more fulfilling lives. It's not that they refuse to change, they just don't. Upon entering the town, I am greeted by the matron. She has always been a pillar within the community, but a life of hard work with little rest has taken its toll. Not so much on her body, though the signs are there, but her sensibilities. Sometimes you can see glimpses of the unforgiving taskmaster she once was, but more often something else peeks through. Something that you might have thought was simply old age, but not quite. It's creeping, slow and viscous, and seems to tangle itself in her words when she encounters something from outside, from the world at large that she doesn't completely understand. It's not malicious, but it also isn't without teeth. And as I'm greeted by the matron, I can see its tendrils weave their way through her, its reflection lapping at the whites of her eyes. She is overjoyed, and before I can stop her, she has fallen to her knees, enraptured by something I can't see. In the dirt, she begins scattering dust and stones as she grabs for something. Her joy seems only to grow with the fervor with which she gathers, and before long I can see faint tinges of red darkening the drifting dust. I still can't tell what she's holding, but she has brought them up to her discerning eye and begins to place them by the handful in my hesitant hands. When she drops them in my hands, I half expect for there to be nothing, that thing behind her eyes has finally taken hold. To my surprise, they have their own mass, but something about them feels wrong, too sharp, almost hollow, as though they weigh too little for the space that they occupy. Diamonds, she exclaims jubilantly through weary, joy-filled eyes. Diamonds. My eyes cast to my palms, taking in the scattering of glittering pieces with jagged edges, the bloodied dust that dulls their glossy surfaces. They scrape and cut hair-thin trails against my palms, barely breaking skin. My gaze shifts back to the matron, still elated at her discovery. Her eyes widen expectantly, almost pleadingly. Who would have known that there would be diamonds here, just lying on the ground? What fortune, and what a blessing it is to have such a deserving person to receive them. Her hands rise to my face. I can feel her blood smearing against my cheeks, something she seemingly doesn't notice. I will myself to smile as her eyes meet mine once more, with the same endearing, childlike excitement as my heart aches, and I graciously pocket the slivers of broken glass that she has given me. And that is Glass Diamonds. I'd like to think that my mom thinks I'm beautiful, not just because I've decided to make myself that way. But I'm not sure. And I don't know if I have the heart to ask. Because I feel like her response would be dumbstruck. I feel like she wouldn't understand why I would ever feel that way. And that's seemingly more painful than the thought that she never thought I was beautiful to begin with. And sometimes I feel like glass diamonds. But that's it. That's all.